Vrindayai Tulsi Devai Priyayate Savasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Prati Devi Satyavachanamo Namaha Vrindayai Tulsi Devai Priyayate Savasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Prati Devi Satyavachanamo Namaha Vrindayai Tulsi Devai Priyayate Savasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Prati Devi Satyavachanamo Namaha
Hare Krishna, good morning. So we're going to be getting ready for the Srimad Bhagavatam class. Canto 10, chapter 54, verse 55. Jamadava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janava Girivaradhari Girivaradhari Gopi Janava Girivaradhari. Thank you. Yasodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Chanavallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Chanavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Chanavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Vraja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnupad Parahamsa Parivrachakacharya Saraswata His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Vadar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Sundara Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mathura Dham Ki Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Kangamai Ki Yamuna Mai ki, Tulsi Devi ki, Bhakti Devi ki, Brihad Mirdanga ki, Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki, Harinam Sankirtan ki, Vogue distribution ki, Prasad distribution ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru Angaranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Again, good morning. and we're going to be listening to the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, chapter 54, verse 55. Nara naryascha muditaha pramrishtamani kundalha paribarham upajarur varayos chitravassaso nara naryascha muditaha pramrishtamani kundala paribarham upajarur varayos chitravassaso nara naryascha mudita pramrishtamani kundala paribarham upajarur varayos chitravassaso. Devotees, nara naryascha mudita pramrishtamani kundala aparivarham upajarur varayos chitravassaso nara naryascha mudita pramrishtamani kundala paribarham upajarur varayos chitravassaso nara naryascha mudita pramrishtamani kundala parivarham upajarur varayos chitravassaso. Naraha, the man, Nariha, women, Cha, and Muditaha, joyful, Pramrishta, polished, Mani, their jewels, Kundalaha, and earrings, Parivarham, wedding gifts, Upajaru, they respectfully presented, Varayaho, to the groom and the bride, Chitra, wonderful, Vasaso, whose dress. Translation, and there is no purport by the disciple of Srila Prabhupada, but there are brief commentaries by the acharyas. All the men and women, full of joy and adorned with shining jewels and earrings, brought wedding presents which they reverently offered to the exquisitely dressed groom and bride. The groom is Krishna and the bride is Rukmini. Because this is the chapter about the kidnapping of Rukmini and taking Krishna taking Rukmini back home and marrying her. Please repeat. All the men and women, full of joy and adorned with shining jewels and earrings, brought wedding presents, which they reverently offered to the exquisitely dressed groom and bride. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, one line, he says, they brought worthy gifts to the bride and groom. Srila Jiva Goswami writes, Varayaho means the groom and bride. It is like Swasuroho, which can stand for father and mother-in-law. The two wore clothing of various color, chitra. The great beauty of the wedding is described. And Sanatana Goswami, Srila Sanatana Goswami writes, the jewels shone more than usual, Pramrishta. The bride and groom were dressed attractively with oil and turmeric. This was characteristic of the wedding. They offered them at close hand or as gifts, or the two were the best. Thus the gifts were the best. Their clothing was remarkable, with many colors. So, E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishavanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vanchakalpataruviyascha Kripa Sindhuvyavacha Patitanam Pavanevi Vaishnavevi Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Everybody, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. With your blessings, let's hope that something of value may come in this class that can be practically applied in one's life. So here we are talking about how Krishna and Rukmini are getting married, how there is so much joy among the citizens of Dwarka, and how everybody is so jubilant. And everybody's dressing, not just the bride and groom, but everybody's dressing in the exquisite regalia in order to celebrate this wedding. And we know that the mood, and we know that the mood is a full devotion. All the presents, the people present at the wedding and in the town, in the city of Dwarka, are celebrating this wedding with full love for the Supreme Lord and full happiness that he is getting married. In the previous verse, I'm going to read the previous verse and then this one. At that time, O king, there was great rejoicing in all the homes of Yadupuri, whose citizens loved only Krishna, chief of the Yadus. And today's verse, all the men and women full of joy and adorned with shining jewels and earrings brought wedding presents which they reverently offered to the exquisitely dressed groom and bride. And we will see in the next verses coming up toward the end of the chapter how they decorated the city. Everything was decorated, everything was beautiful, exquisite, everything is full of joy and happiness. Everybody was full of heart, full of devotion and love for Krishna in their hearts. Everybody was celebrating. There's such a wonderful mood of celebration. We've seen in this chapter all kinds of things happening. And some of them were really not so palatable because so many people, so many soldiers were killed, were vanquished, and the armies were conquered. And Krishna was able to kidnap, of course, he's the Supreme Lord, Rukmini. And Rukmi, the brother of Rukmini, who was opposed to the wedding of Krishna with his sister Rukmini, was defamed, severely defamed. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about some commentary from the Gopal Champu Bashila Jiva Goswami, which talks about all these points, and it talks about other things that are of great interest. I found that reading very, very enlightening because it not only presents the situation on the battlefield or the situation in during the kidnapping or the situation back at home in back in the house, back in Yadupuri, Dwarka, but it also talks about what happens in Vrindavan at that time. So there is like a backstory. There is something that sustains the story of the wedding of Krishna with Rukmini, the first wife. So I'm going to paraphrase because this is pretty long, but there are some messengers that go to to Vrindavan and talk to Nanda Maharaj. And they said that Rukmini agreed with Balarama's instructions because Balaram was instructing everybody. He was chastising Krishna, he was instructing Rukmini, and he was instructing also Rukmini. But the instruction that instructions Balaram gave Rukmini after he had been shaped and disgraced for Rukmini were more painful than the instructions, but than the pain that Krishna caused him. And it's interesting because Balaram's desire is to instruct and alleviate sorrow and pain, but Rukmini took it in the wrong way, even though the instruction was perfect. And he was very afflicted by this instruction on top of the defaming by Krishna. So Nanda Maharaj is very curious to know what's happening, what happened there. And then he was asking, so how did this cruel fellow, this disfigured like that, go back to Kundina, to his home place? And so the messenger explained that the Rukmini, we're talking about Rukmini, should actually be doubly punished. Balaram was thinking this way. To protect him, and honor him, he had him shaved by a barber as if he had gone on pilgrimage. That would not be anything that would cause any disgrace. On the contrary, somebody who shaves up to go on place of pilgrimage is acknowledged as somebody very pious and nothing to do with being defamed. Holding strong enmity towards Krishna and bad intentions on his return journey, that's Rukmini, he came to his residence and stayed there. And then this messenger says, what else can I say about this disgraceful individual, this very sinful individual? So Nanda keeps asking, so did Krishna return to an auspicious house? Because Nanda's desire is to see that Krishna is thriving, that Krishna is honored, that Krishna is loved. That's his concern. And the messengers said, after he returned as previously, he heard news of Raj through Uddhava, and taking Uddhava's permission, send us here quickly. So these messengers have been sent by Uddhava. So Uddhava is talking to Krishna about Raj. And that's why Nanda is making all these inquiries, because the messengers have given him the information about what happened on the battlefield and what happened after the kidnapping and Krishna taking Rukmini to Dwarka. So they said, and then Nanda said, was the marriage performed? And the messenger said, no, it seemed to have been neglected. And the reason was previously given. Hearing all the happy news from the mouth of Uddhava, how could Krishna marry if it were not performed by you? In other words, indirectly, Krishna is asking Nanda to sanction this wedding. So the son has the duty of obeying the orders of the father, and if he has some desire of his own, the father needs to sanction it for it to be accomplished. So Krishna was kind of hesitant because he hadn't got in touch with his father. But Nanda and others were discussing all of this in the assembly. Then the servants of Vasudeva coming from Dwarka carried a message to Nanda, offered respects, inquired about his well-being, and then addressed him saying, "O Lord, Vasudeva has sent you this letter." Nanda took the letter and read it. And this is what Vasudeva says. "You're my friend, always thinking of my happiness. You are the root of all spaciousness, named Nanda." Your name is Nanda, the root of all spaciousness. Embracing you, I, Vasudev, make a request with all humility. Your son, that you accept as your own, I also take as my son. So Krishna has Vasudeva as his father and Nanda as his father. And Vasudeva and Nanda are very close friends, and they are relatives too, cousins. We have no difference. You know that I know that. Who could think otherwise about us? Because we have the same feelings for Krishna as our son. We pray permission for his marriage, just as you repeatedly pray for permission with your handwritten letters. So here is Vasudeva asking for permission for Krishna from Nanda Maharaj so that he can marry Rukmini. That's why the wedding was slightly delayed. And then, saying this, Nanda said, all right, arrange to feed the two messengers, and later we will send a suitable message. Since Krishna's promise to return to Vraja, we saw that in chapter 49, since Krishna's promise to return to Vraja cannot be false, he will be delayed as long as the enemy has not been destroyed. That has not yet been accomplished, but sometime in the future, it will be. So they're talking back about the beginning of this fighting that goes on when Krishna is aspiring to kidnap Rukmini. And of course, we know that he was able to kidnap Rukmini and that he took her to Dwarka to make her his wife. But it's an important point that in the background we have the messengers going to Vraj and sent by Uddhava with all this news so that both Nanda Maharaj and all the other citizens of Vrindavan understand what's happening. And Vasudeva, in the meantime, writing this letter asking for permission for Krishna to marry and asking Nanda for permission so that Krishna can be married to Rukmini. So all of this is a cause of a slight delay. So this is what's happening here in these two verses. There is a celebration, it's very joyful. And so we aspire to experience joy, to experience happiness. And I'm going to read some quotes by Srila Prabhupada from different texts and from some classes about what is joy, what is happiness, and how we are entitled to experience that joy and that happiness ourselves also. Because we are such Chit and Ananda, by definition, by nature, we are full of knowledge and ever existing, always existing, and full of joy, full of pleasure and happiness. So let's see what Srila Prabhupada is saying. And then I'll go to Bhagavad Gita and read verse number 2 from chapter 9. So Srila Prabhupada says, let's see, in the third canto, chapter 24, verse 25, thus married, the sages took leave of Kardama and departed full of joy. This is in previous occasions with another situation, another pastime, the Supreme Lord. And in canto 4, chapter 1, verse 53, on the occasion of the appearance of Narayan, the entire world was full of joy. So every time the Supreme Lord appears, or every time the Supreme Lord is performing some activity, all of those who are present and those who hear about it are experiencing full of joy. And we can hear about the Supreme Lord. And how do we hear about the Supreme Lord? By reading Srila Prabhupada's books, by coming to class on the Bhagavatam, by forming groups to discuss the readings that we're doing. Like there is a personality here in this place, right now here, sitting with us, who's been reading Srimad Bhagavatam with a number of devotees online for how long? Gajendra Prabhu, how long have you been reading the Bhagavatam online? Gajendra Prabhu? Since 2019. Ongoing. And what chapter are you at now? What canto are you? Canto 8. Canto 8, chapter 28. So this is what this personality here, who also has the experience about the beauty and the opulence and the exquisite celebration of a wedding very recently. And so we know that all these experiences that Krishna is showing us, they are still current. Like in weddings, weddings are very special celebrations. And Gajendra Prabhu recently, one of his children, his son, had a wedding. It was magnificent. So anyway, so by hearing the Bhagavatam, by reading Prabhupada's books, by discussing the text with devotees, I was mentioning to my husband how we need to sustain our bodies with good rest and good prasadam. And in this way, we can have the strength to be able to carry out our duties, our services. But we should also include the soul. How do we feed? How do we nourish our own selves? By hearing, by chanting, by sharing, by preaching, all of these activities that actually nourish our own self. The body needs to be full of strength, but the soul needs to be also nourished very, very consistently so that the body can shrink and ourself can expand until the point where eventually the body is left behind and we recover our real identity and can be at that time personally in contact with the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. So going back to this text in Canto 10, chapter 1, it says here, just on the point of Krishna's appearance, automatically their minds became full of joy because they could hear loud vibrations in the sky of transcendental sound, proclaiming the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Let's remember that the Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, all these books are transcendental sound, and we have easy access to them. We can have them on the phone, we have them on our iPads, laptops, etc. So they can always accompany us wherever we go. We can always open the phone and read a verse, read an excerpt, paragraph. In Canto 14, which is the prayers of Indra, all the men and women, full of joy and adorned with shining jewels and earrings, brought wedding presents which they reverently offered to the exquisitely dressed groom and bride, which is actually this verse that we were looking at yesterday, actually. And in other words, everything about our connection with the Supreme Lord is full of joy. And here, Srimad Bhagavatam, in a lecture, he says, as God is full of joy, similarly, we're also part and parcel of God. We're also full of joy. So we have to treat ourselves how to go to that platform of joyfulness. Now, if we're not experiencing full joy, it's because there is a blockage, and the blockage is called material contamination. And so there is a process that is extremely powerful, which is Shravanam Kirtanam, which is again hearing and chanting, and especially the chanting the holy name of the Lord. And I'll read some verses from the Chaitanya Charitamrita that were read here yesterday. They are actually making the point very clearly. And another lecture, Srila Prabhupada says, transcendental life means always full of joy, joyful. That is our nature. Prasanna means full of joy, full of life. Evam prasanna. This is from the Bhagavad Gita. He's full of joy, so we, as part and parcel also, we're also full of joy. So we are, as part and parcel, we are full of joy. So unless we come in contact with the Supreme, our joyfulness will never be fulfilled. So how do we come in contact with the Supreme? It's a question. How do we come in contact with the Supreme so that we can also be immersed in that atmosphere of joy, I mentioned, I already gave some ideas. Chant the holy name. That's number one. Mantra. Go down the street chanting Harinam so that everybody can hear. We had a very nice Harinam yesterday because there was a game in Chapel Hill, the University of Chapel Hill, and we were there when everybody was coming out, and they were coming across the street by the hundreds, and everybody was hearing the holy name. That means that not only humans, but any living entity that was present there was hearing the holy name. So I'm going to read something about, let's see how much time we have. I'm going to read this verse from the Bhagavad Gita, which is chapter 9, verse number 2, an iconic verse, an extremely beautiful, beautiful verse. And this verse reads, let me get it. We're all familiar with this verse. We have to revisit these verses because they're always so full of inspiration and so full of instruction and gentle instruction. Where Krishna is saying, Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyaksha Dharmyam Susukham Kartum Avyayam. This knowledge that Krishna is giving us about who we are, who He is, how we can connect. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret, also sacred, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge. And because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and it is joyfully performed. It's a mouthful. How many things Krishna is saying in this verse? First of all, this knowledge about transcendental knowledge, about the process of bhakti, ultimately, is the king of education. There's nothing higher than this. It's the most secret of all secrets. In order to be able to access this secret, we have to be willing and open ourselves up to receiving it. That's the only requirement. It is the purest knowledge. There's nothing more pure than this. And it gives direct perception of the self by realization. So we are perceiving our true nature. It's not like where somebody's telling us and we say, oh yeah, maybe, perhaps. It's in the family, it's in the tradition, so I'm accepting it. No. We have to realize this knowledge. This knowledge is finding our true nature. It's giving us the opportunity and the tools to find our own nature. So we become self-realized. It is the perfection of religion. There is no religion that is higher than this. This is the highest. And it's everlasting and joyfully performed. If we're not experiencing joy, like I said, there is a little bit of dusting and mopping and sweeping that needs to take place so that we can have a spotless self that can be open to receiving the mercy of the Supreme Lord and eventually be engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord. So there is a paragraph here as a long purport. The process of devotional service is a very happy one. Why? Devotional service consists of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, hearing, chanting about the Supreme Lord. So one can simply hear the chanting of the glories of the Lord, or can attend philosophical lectures on transcendental knowledge given by authorized acharyas. Simply by sitting, one can learn. Then one can eat the remnants of the foodstuff offered to God. Nice palatable dishes. In every state, devotional service is joyful. The association of the devotees is joyful. The prasadam causes us great joy. Hearing the pastimes of the Supreme Lord is a source of pleasure. Chanting the holy name is the tops. What else is joyful about this process? Okay. What else is joyful about this process? Prasadam, yes, of course. Everything about this process, we can actually examine and analyze anything that is part of the process of bhakti, and there is not one thing that is not joyful. Yes, ma'am. Oh, that's a wonderful one. Discussing Krishna's beautiful qualities. Not only beautiful, but it's also so heartwarming, isn't it? And so it goes so deep into the heart. That's wonderful. So I'm going to read now that we have a little time left to talk about, or to find actually the verses that were presented so beautifully by Apurva Prabhu yesterday. He was reading from the Chaitanya Charitamrita with such taste and so clearly and so well enunciated. It was such a pleasure to hear this reading. So let me get it here. These verses about Lord Chaitanya going through the Jarikanda forest. We'll begin with it's Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 17, verse 31. While the Lord was bathing and murmuring the Gayatri mantra, the elephants came before him. The Lord immediately splashed some water on the elephants and asked them, what? What did Lord Chaitanya ask the elephants to do? Chant the holy name of Krishna. And then, this is verse 31. The other verses, let me go to verse 45. And verse 45 is, when the Lord loudly chanted, Haribol, the trees and creepers became jubilant to hear him. And so Prabhupada writes, Srila Prabhupada writes, the loud chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is so powerful that it can even penetrate the ears of trees and creepers. What to speak of those of animals and human beings. That's why it's so important to actually chant in public, because Krishna is just waiting to jump into the hearts of all living entities through his son, the son of his holy name. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu once asked Haridas Thakur how trees and plants could be delivered. And Haridas Thakur replied that the loud chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra would benefit not only trees and plants, but insects and all other living beings. One should therefore not be disturbed by the loud chanting of Hare Krishna, for it is beneficial not only to the chanter, but to everyone who gets an opportunity to hear. And I know that there is Harinam going on in this area. I believe there was a Harinam in Bond Park in Cary yesterday. So whenever there is an opportunity, and it's such a pleasurable experience, so pleasurable, I invite everybody to join the Harinam. We had one in Chapel Hill, there was another one. And it should proliferate, because there are so many devotees who are in so many different towns and villages of this area. So in any group, in any area, anybody can just come together with other devotees and chant the holy name of the Lord for the benefit not only of those who are hearing, including plants, animals, microbes, germs, but also their own personal benefit, because it's a very purifying activity. Thus, this continue with the next verse, which is 46. Again, Madhya Lila, Madhya Lila, the CC, chapter 17, verse 46 this time. Thus, all living entities in the forest of Jarikanda, some moving and some standing still, became maddened, experiencing such intense joy and ecstasy by hearing the holy name of Lord Krishna vibrated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Of course, if when we hear the holy name vibrated by a pure devotee, then of course the power is very, very strong. And here is Krishna himself in his form, is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu form, also providing this experience to every living entity so they would experience ecstasy, the highest form of joy. And the next verse, one more verse. In all the villages through which the Lord passed, in all the places he rested on his journey, everyone was purified and awakened to ecstatic love of God. Thank you very much. Jai Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and to all the devotees of the Lord present and everywhere. Hare Krishna.
Krishi Gata Vamshi Vata Dvada Sakanan Yada Vamshi Vata Dvada Sakanan Jasabalila Koilo Srinandananda Hila Srinanda Jasoda Jaya Jaya Gopagan Jaya Gopagan Shri Damadi Jaya Jaya Denuvatsagan Jaya Denuvatsagan Jaya Vrishabhanu Jaya Kirtida Sundari Jaya Kirtida Sundari Jaya Purnamasi Jaya Birnagari Jaya 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 Gopishwara Vrindavanamad Jaya Vrindavanamad Jaya Jaya Krishna Saka Bhatu Dvijaraj Krishna Saka Jaya Ramagata Jaya Rohini Nandan Jaya Jaya Vrindavana Basi Jata Jaya Dvija Patni Jaya Naga Kanyagan Bhakti Tejahara Pailo Govinda Charan Shirasa Mandala Jaya Jaya Radha Jaya Jaya Rasa Leela Sarva Jaya Jaya Jwala Rasa Sarva Krishna Dasa Koe Nama Sankirtan Krishna Dasa Koe Nama Sankirtan Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavan Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavan Shri Govinda Gopinatha Madana Mohan Govinda Gopinatha Madana Mohan Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Golokananda Radha Golokananda Shri Radhe Radha Golokananda Radha Golokananda Shri Radhe Jaya Radha Golokananda Radha Golokananda Shri Radhe Radha Golokananda Radha Golokananda Shri Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe Hare Jaya Hare Jaya Hare Jaya Shri Radhe Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Shri Vrindavan Dham Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Shri Vrindavan Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gauranga Jaya Nitai Gauranga Gauranga Jaya Nitai Gauranga Jaya Sachinandana Jaya Sachinandana Sachinandana Jaya Sachinandana Jaya Sachinandana Gaura Hari Sachinandana Gaura Hari Jaya Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada Jai Nityalila Vishnu Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajikacharya Stota Sada Shri Srinath's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nityalila Vishnu Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajikacharya Stota Sada Shri Srinath's Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavamiti ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Shri Gangamai ki, Shri Jamuna Mai ki, Shri Bhakti Devi ki, Srimati Tulsi Maharani ki, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki, Briha Madanga Transcendental Bhakti Shushan ki, Prasadam Sankirtan ki, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Garanga. Please everybody read along. All glories to Radha and Krishna and the divine forest of Vrindavan. All glories to the three residing deities of Vrindavan. Shri Govinda, Gopinath, and Madana Mohan. All glories to Shamakunda, Radha Kunda, Govardhan Hill, and Jamuna River Kalindi. All glories to the great forest known as Mahavan. All glories to Keshigat, the Vamsivata tree, and the 12 forests of Vraja. At these places the son of Nanda, Sri Krishna, performed all of his pastimes. All glories to Krishna's divine father and mother, Nanda and Jasoda. All glories to the cowherd boys headed by Sridham. All glories to the cows and calves of Vraja. All glories to Radha's divine father and mother, Rishabhanu and the beautiful Kirtida. All glories to Purnamasi, the mother of Sandipani Muni. All glories to the cowherd maidens of Vraja. All glories to Gopishwara Shiva, who resides in Vrindavan in order to protect the holy Dham. All glories to Krishna's funny Brahmana friend. Oh. This very fallen and lonely servant of Krishna sings the Sankirtan of the holy name. Sankirtan.
Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vitaranam Vijavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratipanam Pranamrita Swadanam